The rotten standard and moral decadence that we see in the society today are resultant consequences of improper upbringing of children by a lot of parents. If every family should take good care of their children, especially their moral well-being, the society will be a better place to live. It is said, teach your child the way to go, so that even when he grows old, he won't depart from it. Salamatu Abdullahi Baiwa Jr., popularly known as Salam B, is an example of a child brought up in the way of God as the way to go. And I'm sure she won't depart from the way, because you need to listen to this lecture delivered with its eloquency, preciseness, and deep meaning. Listen to her.
Start with the greatest name of Almighty Allah, the most gracious and merciful, whose bounties are unbound, whose benevolence is everlasting, whose blessings are uncountable, whose being is eternal, whose mercy is unlimited, whose provisions are unending, whose love is our life and whose faith is our worship. I greet you all seated here with the best of greetings, with the greetings of the people of Jannah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Baiwa Abdullahi, and I'm standing here before you to speak on the topic arrogance and pride. What is arrogance? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam described arrogance in a hadith related by Abdullahi, where he said, لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر. No one who has in his heart a weight of the size of a seed of arrogance will enter paradise. Then a man said, إن الرجل أن يكون ثوبه حسنا. But a man likes to have nice clothes and shoes. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, إن الله جميل يحب الجمال. Verily, Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. Al-Kibar Batar al-Haqi wa Ghamd al-Nas. Arrogance is to disregard the truth and look down on people. Related in Sahih al-Muslim, Kitab al-Iman, chapter 39, hadith number 91. Arrogance and pride create a barrier between individuals and Allah. They prevent us from seeking for forgiveness and guidance. Arrogance is a disease. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not favor those who are arrogant. Allah says in Surah Al-Luqman, verse 18, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولا تصعر خدك للناس ولا تمشي في الأرض مرحا إن الله لا يحب كل مختال فخور. And do not turn your cheek in contempt, and do not walk upon the earth exultantly. Indeed, Allah does not like anyone self-deluded or boastful. This verse emphasizes the importance of avoiding arrogance. It discourages looking down on people. Some people look down on others just because of certain things they possess. We should be humble at all times. Just because you have 2 hands and feet, or a person has a defect and you're complete, does not mean you're better than the person. Because there's nothing extra you're doing for Allah for Him to have made you complete. It's just because He wills to do so. Allah says in Surah Al-Isra, verse 37, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولا تمشي في الأرض مرحا إنك لن تغرق الأرض ولن تبلغ الجبال طولا. And do not walk upon the earth exultantly. Indeed, you will never tear the earth apart, and you will never reach the mountains in height. We should not be consumed by pride and arrogance, because we all have limited power and control, and we are all extremely dependent on Allah's mercy and guidance. You're rich today, but tomorrow you can be poor. You're alive today, but in years, months, weeks, days, hours, minutes, or even seconds, you can be dead. And you will be buried in the same ground, in the same shroud as the person that you might have been arrogant towards. Don't you fear the punishment of Allah? Don't you fear that Allah might take away every single thing He has bestowed upon you in this dunya? We need to sit down and think about our characters. My dear sisters, do you ever feel like you're better than your classmate just because you're topping your class? Allah's scale is piety. A religious student must not forget that she's incapable and needy. She must not consider herself a special segment of the society and for other classmates to be below her. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that the worst of us nations are the garrulous and the braggarts, and the best of nations are those with the best characters. Related by Bukhari in Al-Adab Hadith 1308. Whenever I think of arrogance, I remember Iblis. Allah says in Surah Al-A'raf verse 11 to 13, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولقد خلقناكم ثم صورناكم ثم قلنا للملائكة اسجدوا لآدم فسجدوا إلا إبليس لم يكن من الساجدين. And surely we created you, O Adam, and then gave you the noble shape of a human being. Then we said to the angels, prostrate yourselves to Adam, and they prostrated themselves, except from Iblis. He refused to be one of those who prostrated themselves. قال ما منعك ألا تسجد إذ أمرتك قال أنا خير منه خلقتني من نار وخلقته من طين. Allah said, what prevented you, O Iblis, that you did not prostrate yourself when I commanded you? He said, I am better than him, Adam. You created me from fire, and him you created from clay. قال فاهبط منها فما يكون لك أن تتكبر فيها فاخرج إنك من الصاغرين. Allah said, O Iblis, get down from this paradise. It is not for you to be arrogant here. Get out, for you are one of those humiliated and disgraced. Iblis was expelled from paradise because of his arrogance. Why will a Muslim want to share characters with the sole enemy of mankind? Do you remember the story of Qarun that was narrated in Surah Al-Qasas, verse 76 to 81? Allah says in the surah, verse 76, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن قارون كان من قوم موسى فبغى عليهم وآتيناه من الكنوز ما إن مفاتحه لتنوء بالعصوة أولي القوة إذ قال له قومه لا تفرح إن الله لا يحب الفرحين. Verily, Qarun was of Musa's people, but he behaved arrogantly towards them, and we gave him the treasures of which the keys would have been a burden to a body of strong men. I remember when his people said to him, do not exalt with riches. Verily, Allah likes not those who exalt. Then Allah described his great punishment in the same surah, verse 81. وَخَسَفْنَا بِهِ وَبِدَارِ الْأَرْضَ فَمَا كَانَ لَهُ مِنْ فِئَةٍ يَنْصُرُونَهُ مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ وَمَا كَانَ مِنَ الْمُنْتَصِرِينَ. So we caused the earth to swallow him and his dwelling place, and he could not find for himself any group or party to help him against Allah, nor was he one of those who could save themselves. Arrogant people imagine that every characteristic they possess is from themselves. They imagine that their leadership skills, their health, their wealth, their knowledge, their intelligence comes from themselves. Instead of them to know that it is a blessing bestowed upon them by Allah, they regard it as something to be proud of. My dear sisters, do you ever feel like you're better than your classmate just because you're topping your class? Allah's scale is piety. A religious student must not forget that she's incapable and needy. She must not consider herself a special segment of the society and for her other classmates to be below her. Allah says in Surah Al-Ghafir, verse 60, وَقَالَ رَبُّكُمُ ادْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ عَنْ عِبَادَتِهِ سَيَدْخُلُونَ جَهَنَّمَ دَاخِرِينَ. And the servants of the beneficent Lord are those who walk upon the earth. And your Lord says, call upon me and I shall answer you. Those who are too proud for my worship will enter hell fully humbled. Arrogance not only encompasses how you deal with people, but how you deal with Allah himself. Those who get caught up in becoming powerful and arrogant in this world tend to fall into the trap of believing that Allah is not worthy of servitude and worship. As Muslims, we have to avoid arrogance as to remain as faithful worshippers to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said in a hadith related by Iyad bin Himar, Inna Allah ta'ala awhay ilayya an tawadu'u hatta la yabghiya ahad wa la ahadin wa la yafqara ahad wa la ahadin. Allah has revealed to me that you must be humble so that no one boasts over another or oppresses another. Related by Ibn Majah in Abwab al-Zuhud, hadith 4179. Arrogance and pride are behind many sins we commit. One will not accept reality if arrogance is left to grow. One will stand against the truth. One will think that he himself is the truth. He will think that his own opinions are correct and he will lead himself astray. My dear brothers and sisters, know that arrogance and pride are true destroyers of faith. It cuts deeply into one's spirituality. As Muslims, it remains our duty to protect our morals of humility. Allah says in Surah Al-Ghafir, verse 35, those who dispute about the ayahs without any authority that has come to them, indeed it is greatly hateful and disgusting to Allah and to those who believe. Thus does Allah seal up the heart of every arrogant tyrant so they cannot guide themselves to the right path. I urge you all to cultivate the characters of humility. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam set the greatest example, and he taught that true honor comes from being humble towards Allah and treating others with respect and humility. unity. Allah says in Surah Al-Furqan verse 63, وَعِبَادُ الرَّحْمَنِ الَّذِينَ يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. And the servants of the beneficent Lord are those who walk upon the earth in humbleness. And when the ignorant says ill words to them, they reply with words of peace. If we all avoid arrogance, we can foster unity, promote compassion, and create a society based on the principles of justice and equity. May Almighty Allah guide us all to embrace humility. May He save us from the destructive traits of arrogance. May He cleanse our hearts of it. May He let us die as sincere and humble Muslims. Allahumma tahir qalbi min al-ghilla wal-haqadi wal-hasad wal-kibr. Ameen.